Yeah. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh. Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. The elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever. The hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, you Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yehawada with the lesson. And yeah, this is just a quick one. And basically in this Little Richard he expresses himself as being overlooked, and he says Jewish, but he's basically onto something, right? He's not. There's no such thing as Jewish, but he is an Israelite, right? So he may be from the tribe of Judah, but he may be Gad, right? From his look, the way his spirit. I believe Little Richard is probably Gad, but he is an Israelite. So he's definitely onto something by saying what he said. So you know what? Without further ado, let's just go ahead and go with it.
Let me say this about the Beatles. Right. I took the Beatles on this tour. They was making $50 a week a person. God blessed the Beatles, and he did. I used to have to buy their steaks every day when we had steak. Yeah. John Leonard would come up and make all these big bills, and I had to pay them. I had the Beatles, I had Jerry and the Pacemakers, and a group called the Swingin' Blue Jeans. I had Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. He made his first tour. Nobody never heard of these people.
Do these people send you a Christmas card?
They send me more than Christmas cards. They're my friends. I really don't want anything from them. All I want them to do is to spread what they got from me. God gave it to me, and they got it from me, so just carry the good word over the world. That's all. I don't want nothing. I just want them to do what's right. Like James Brown, he was my singer in my band. He was with me. Yeah. Joe Tex was my singer. Otis Reddings. Jimi Hendrix was my guitar player for 4 years. But you never hear about all of this from me. Everybody said, well, what did he do? I did it all, but don't nobody know nothing about it.
I wish I could.
And that's where it happened when you're Jewish. They do you like that.
All right, so you can hear he's done it all, and he did, and that's crazy. So many great entertainers came in behind him, but no one like he said, he's the architect of rock and roll, but no one's giving him the credit, right? The way he deserved as the architect of rock and roll. See right here, they're saying the GOAT, but normally these are sentiments come after you're gone, you're dead, and you're gone. Now people kind of look at over things, and then and now they want to say that you're the greatest of all time, right? But he's always stated it. He's always he's telling you, but there was no big old thing saying, wait a minute, all these people learned from this guy. He's not saying he's the architect of rock and roll for no reason, right? All these great rock and roll R&B acts came from under his tutelage, right? let's rewind it back just one more time, just so you can hear him say, what he said. They basically and gave him the credit, but that's what they do to you when you're Jewish, which we know there's no such thing as Jewish, right? Right. The Jew come from the tribe of Judah, right, which is only one tribe of all the 12 tribes, right? But and in retrospect, all of us come from Judas per se, but to be correct, you still have to come correct, right? As far as being truthful, right? Because the Lord said there should be 12 manners of trees. There should be 12 trees and 12 manner of fruit, or a tree with 12 manners of fruit, right? Being different flavors, But let's hear this real good.
Me too. I did it all, but don't nobody know nothing about it.
I wish I
And
could
that's
do
where it
that.
happens when you're Jewish. They do you like that.
And then the people laughing, they're glossing over. They're looking at it like funny, as far as this guy saying he's Jewish, ha 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 ha. But little do they know, right? Are laughing, right? Because they're glossing over like what he said. They're probably thinking them goddamn small hats in the land are the real people, when basically they're not, and looking at him as if he was not saying something significant, right? And they're just laughing, right? Which, like I said, I believe he's a Gadite, but so when he said it, he was still kind of telling the truth. So right in this verse, it tells you that. It says, "Hear ye, O Jacob," right? Which that name is interchangeable with Israel, which are called by the name Israel. See, it's interchangeable because Jacob, which is our father, wrestled with an angel, and the angel changed his name from Jacob, which is Yaquab, to Yasha'Allah, and that Yaquab and Yasha'Allah are interchangeable. It's the same person, but then it also became the name that he gave to his sons, his descendants, which are also interchangeable with his descendants, are come forth out of the waters of Judah, right? And Judah is his fourth born son, is Jacob's fourth born son. So that's how you know it's not talking about actual Jacob or Israel. It's not talking about him, because it says they have all, it's talking about all 12 tribes, come forth out of the waters of Judah, right? Being Yahweh Shai is a Judite, right? He came from the tribe of Judah, right? And his one of his carnations, right? Right, his life times, he was also Solomon, right? Which Solomon came from the tribe of Judah, right? Which is saying that David shall reign again in the kingdom of heaven when the Lord established the kingdom of heaven on earth. David is also from what? The tribe of Judah. So we're all coming out of the waters, right? Of Judah, right? Which swore by the name Yahweh, right? Being the people who got the law, statutes, and commandments from the Most High Yahweh unto his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, being we all stem from that that what do you call it, that power, so to speak, right? Because it says and swore by Yahweh, right? Because we all made that oath, right? Right at the bottom of Mount Sinai, which being you're being the people who made the oath of the power of Israel, right? See, and the Most High, right, is the power of Israel, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, starting with the Most High, is the power of Israel, but not in truth, right? See, because though Little Richard, he threw it out there, that's how they do you when you're, that's a name that is, it's interchangeable also with righteousness, right? Right? But not in truth nor in righteousness. So when they were doing that, all that rock and roll and all the different stuff, I mean, yeah, did a lot of so-called great things, and it was great music, so on and so forth. But was it righteous music? So yeah, you're saying that's how they do you, which is true. They do you like that because we we're the form of all things, right? We're the salt of the earth. Of course, that has to happen. So while he was making that statement, rock and roll and all that stuff is not righteous, for they call themselves of the holy city, and stay themselves upon the power of Israel, right? So of course, yeah, I believe in God. You know what I'm saying? I love God. I'm blah blah blah. I'm a God fearing person. Blah blah blah. So all these different things, but a lot of Israelites follow behind the ways of the world, right? Right. So they say they're of the holy people, right? By him saying this is how they do you. When you're Jewish, he's letting you know that he is of the holy people, which is true. So like I said, it was true, but then not all together true, right? It was true, right? Which, like I said, most likely he's a Gadite. So, but all 12 tribes come from the waters of Judah anyway, right? And we are of that holy city. But the things we're supposed to put forth in the earth is righteousness. And rock and roll wasn't altogether righteous. It's basically what I'm saying. And what it says, the holy, and for they call themselves of the holy city and stay themselves upon the power, right, or the Most High of Israel. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai of hosts is his name, right? So starting with the Father, the Most High, Yahweh, which means he is, Bahashem in the name, Yahweh Shai, he is salvation, or he is deliverance. Bahashem Rakah Kodash, which is the Holy Spirit, or Spirit Holy, right? This is by the way we come, right? What's altogether righteous. So it says Psalms 82:2, how long will ye judge unjustly and accept the person of the wicked, right? And that's kind of the things that Jake has done. They accept that the record companies and all these things are owned by the Jewish people, right? they extort them and this and that. But then Jake is still looking for these record deals and all these other things. After all the things that they said, all the wickedness that be done in the time of this, the extorting, the stealing the money, the 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 you know uh the Moism, right, and it says Salah, right, which means pause. You're supposed to be, it's a thing that you should be thinking about. Take a second, think about it, because it says then, right, think about this. So it's pausing to give you a moment, think about it. Salah, it's like a pause. Defend the poor, right? Rock and roll was not necessarily there to defend the poor. It was more to extort the minds of the poor. You got to think of what kind of music these people started bringing in. Music that people like to drop acid to and smoke weed and do more of these different things and do even probably all sorts of adultery and Moism that comes along with this type of thing. But you're supposed to what? Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do what? Justice to the afflicted and the needy, right? Which ultimately a lot of this corrupted more of the minds of the people, right? Right? It says, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked, right? So really your music should have been more motivational, and which Jake had those type of things. Even when you deal with rap, they had the motivational time, but of course these things being controlled by your enemy, they came in and because those are, a lot of them are Jesuits and high uh Illuminati or Luciferian warlocks, things like that. And so they put a twist on all those things, the music industry, right? And really, but truly, you're supposed to make music that rid the people out of the hands of the wicked, right? But it was more of a push towards that. So you had a lot of great people come out of there, and you created great things. And it's because what? It says they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. See, when you're in this world, the music, the things that comes along with it, it's a thing that ain't. Maybe even they were naive, right, to the situation, but not understanding, being naive, you walked in darkness. They walked on in darkness. You continue to do the rock and roll, the music, different things, going on tour, doing things really actually technically corrupting the minds of the children, right? Of the poor and fatherless, the needy, right? Creating good music, right? But it was more music to pacify you, not to wake you up and to rise you up to what the government was doing and what situations really truly are. It was more music to say, hey, let's just maintain with the status quo, right? Let's do music like, was it Purple Haze, and Let's do things like, it's a man's world, but it's nothing without a woman. Try to do a song, technically putting a woman, trying to put her on a pedestal, and almost a lot of them songs, all this, man, all that woman, Queen of Heaven worshiping those songs, right? And they walked on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course, right? Because who's ruling the earth, man? That a lot of that stuff was out of course. It was out of where it should be at, right? Instead of sending the right vibrations through the earth to heal the people, which will heal the earth. No, instead you afflicted the people, and now you have more pollution, more hatred, more idolatry, more adultery, more Moism, right? Right? But at the end of the day, like I say, he was saying some things that were correct. Because, like I said, I believe he's a Gadite. So he is an Israelite. And I have said, ye are gods, right? So he basically, he's have that ability to create, man. He's a God, man. That's why he was such a great, what do they call it? Mentor, so to speak, right? And most likely he was into that Moism, man. So he tapped into that other side, the left-handed side, most likely, that allowed him to actually really create, right? And I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, being all those Israelites, right? All 12 tribes that come out of the waters of Judah, man, right? 12 tribes are gods, not all the rest of you other nations, right? Which those the Beatles and this and that and some of those people, though they look like so-called white people, a lot of them were probably Jakes, especially since he was able to teach them. They caught on. They sent out a certain vibe. They were able to create. They were able to basically be, to have that flavor, right? To right? And I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, right? But ye shall die like men, and fall like the princess, and fall like one of the princes, right? Because it was really meant for us to live forever. But through the fall of Adam and Eve, we die now, right? Yeah, so this is Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. Ye are the salt of the earth, right? Which is talking about the Israelites, man. And so, basically all those people that he was saying that came under him and got trained under him. Those a lot of them are all Israelites, right? I'm not gonna say all the Beatles were Israelites, but I'm pretty sure some of the people within the Beatles and some of those other people who so-called look white, those were Israelites, right? Why? Because they have that salt, they have that flavor, right? That's why the Lord is saying that ye are the salt of the earth. So that music had to send a certain vibe, a certain flavor, which really gave a vibe to the earth. And like they tell you, music is way different than, like, even now you can listen to some of those songs and you'd be like, whoa. And then if you keep listening to it and then you listen to it some more, you'd be like, whoa, like it really shows you true music and where they were at, and the musical mind and the flavor that they had, right? what they were working with. And yes, it is truly actually better than the music of today. But even the music today, they use the 808, whatever, to send out a certain vibe. People are addicted to the vibe, or the vibration of the 808, which goes into the cognitive mind, and it makes them react a certain way, right along with the lyrics and the words and everything, right? And the spirits and the things, the demons that the elite, these small hatters pray over before releasing the album, right? Sends out a certain vibration. But it all ultimately comes from the Israelites being the gods, because all form of music came from what so-called so-called black people, or so-called uh, uh, Native American, or whatever, which really are all Israelites, right? Right? So we come from the waters of Judah. We're just Israelites, right? From whatever respective tribe, right? And that's why we always list the all 12 tribes. We don't just say Jewish, right? Because we could take that verse, that Isaiah 48:1, and then say, hey, yeah, we're just the Jews. We're all, this is speaking about all 12 tribes. So but that wouldn't be in truth and in righteousness. In truth and righteousness, there are 12 tribes. We can't just say one tribe, right? So what you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? Right? Which basically is going into the truth. If you're losing the motivation or whatever it is to be into this truth, and you don't feel like it's the everything has to be the flavor of the week and this and that. No, this is the unadulterated truth. It's everything you need and more, and that's it. You don't need the things of the world, right? You don't need to be watered down, so to speak, right? And that's what people do. They'll get into this thing and get watered down, trying to get the world to like them, right? So, but if you have salt, and your salt's supposed to have this flavor, this savor, this thing, is because ultimately salt even preserves things, right? Salt was meant to, they'll put it on meat back in the day to preserve the meat, but you're not putting forth the effort into the truth, or putting the right vibrations out to preserve the souls of the what? Of the needy, of the fatherless, right? That's ultimately what you're supposed to be doing. But if it has lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thus thenceforth good for nothing, right? But to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men, right? So, hey, ultimately, yeah, that's pretty much what happened to him, right? He wasn't getting the credit. It just trampled him under the foot. Ye are the light of the world, a city that is set on a hill and cannot be hid, right? And that's ultimately, this is meant to be for the truth. For truth's sake, for righteousness' sake, you're supposed to be setting forth an example of being a man who believes in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? But in this case, I'm just using this as this musical thing because he was doing the thing. But look, eventually, men will trot you on the foot. They will take all your credit, your glory, steal your money, and cast you out like you're nothing, right? You were meant to be the light of the world, and you were a light, right? But when it says yeah, so this is it says Matthew chapter 6 verse 22, the light of the body is the eye, and if thence thence the eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light, right? So when you're following the truth, right? When you're into the truth, everything you do, right? No matter if it's music, you're washing dishes, you're cutting the grass, your mind is single towards Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? You know, but if your eye is not upon what the Most High has, your eye is upon other things, right? This music, things of the world. But if thy eye be evil, right? And that music was not a good thing, right? Though it is better than the music of today, that music still was not great. You know, it wasn't righteous music technically. But if thy eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of what? Of darkness. And that music technically was full of darkness, right? And if therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that light? So yeah, you had a certain light, right? And that light being the Illuminati that allowed you to push forth that music and these different things, sends forth certain vibrations and train up people, right? Because really you were most likely some type of gatekeeper, right? And so they wasn't giving you the credit because you were just most likely just doing your job as a gatekeeper, right? You know, yeah, you're the architect of rock and roll, which you're telling the truth, right? You created all these different things, and no one's really necessarily giving you the credit. So you said some things that were true, right? Yeah. So basically, what Little Richard's not putting into perspective is what the curses, right? It says Deuteronomy 28:30. Thus shall betrothed a wife, and another man shall lie with her, right? So these are things that's pertaining to the curse, right? In which we're going through that now. It's a lot of adultery out here, right? Which that was ultimately talking about Esau, because he conquered, him being the the plantation, the so-called boss, the massa. He could do what he want to do, but this is not just a one-time thing. This is continuous, right? The Bible is it's a living word, truly, right? No, Christians say that, but they don't understand how living it really is, right? These things are ongoing, right? The curses of the Lord don't stop, right? It takes on another form. It may be, the time we were in the field, and the massa of the house of the plantation can come and take your wife, but now we're in a situation where it's different, where the women can work, and now they have their work husband that can come and lie with your woman, and there ain't nothing you could do about it, right? Because a lot of those things like that with adultery is punishable unto death, right? according to the law, according to the scriptures, right? And that's ultimately what the Lord is going to bring back into the earth, judgment according to his law, right? But, but just to get to the point, continue on, right? Because that's one of the things he's probably, he didn't know. So the reason why you ain't getting the credit is because you're meant to suffer these punishments. Thus shall build an house, right? And sometimes part of that building the house, like I said, takes on different forms. So you're creating rock and roll, you're creating money. So you're building the house of what? Blues. You're building up the Rolling Stones, right? That's a major thing now. The Rolling Stones is like a major magazine, a major company. So you built these things up. But where's the credit that Rolling Stones actually gives you? Right? James Brown, the hardest working man in the show business, so he was saying, but where was he giving you credit? Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitar players and all that, where were they giving you the credit? The Beatles, top sales of all times, besides what Elvis, which Elvis basically came off from underneath you, and all these other, man, pretty much everybody in all these different genres came from under what you laid down. But how many people are actually giving you that credit? These record companies, they built their whole, kind of like it's basically like a house. They built their whole record company off of the things that you've done, made millions and billions and trillions or whatever it is. At this point, when have they gave you credit? They haven't. So you build, thus shall build in house, and thus shall not dwell therein, right? So you're not part of what they're saying and what they're doing. You're not dwelling there. They're not giving you the benefits of a house, the protection, right? Because a house provides protection from the wind, the rain, the heat. And they're not providing you the protections. Hey, this is our record company. This is our this and that. Let's put you on it. Which you end up being fairly, but you should have been multi-trillion-dollar rich, technically. But they were gonna do that. You built the house and shall not dwell therein. Thus shall plant vineyards and shall not drink. And shall not plant vineyards and shall not gather the grapes thereof. Right? Kind of like what P Diddy's going through right now. Right? That his vodka or his champagne or something, whatever he sued those people over, and then he won. And all of a sudden they got this scandal because they don't want you to plant the vineyards, but they don't want you to truly benefit off of what's yours. Right? They wanted to be able to come in and say, no, we're taking this chunk, and you were just supposed to sit back and just accept that these people can come and take your money. You built the house, you built the vineyards, you did this. And they're supposed to just be able to gut you out, take all your money, and then you do nothing. But he felt like, F that, I'm finna go, and he won his lawsuit. But then look what they're running him through, right? And not to say that he's not a wicked man, but all them people are wicked, bro. Right? They all deserve to be on trial, which that's ultimately why the Lord is coming. But just to get to the point, these are the things that, he understand. These are the curses, man. Right? It says, Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5, verse 1, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness. And saying this is the time that we're about to come into. We're about to come into the elect. Is about to get spiritual power. When Esau come in like a flood, the Lord raise up a standard. Right? And you're going to stand in great boldness, man. Before the face of such have afflicted him and made no accounts of their labors, right? And that's dealing with the same thing what you were talking about. He was talking about. He made a lot of labors. He did a lot of different things, but they haven't made an account of his labors as far as the music business, but also what? We built this country, right? That's what the Lord said. You're going to build, doing the curse, you're going to build houses, right? Build the White House, build all this different foundations and this and that. And then, of course, the land was Gad's, right? So you had us, took Gad's land, had us build your thing, and then you have Issachar coming in to maintain the lawns, right? So you have the tribes doing all sorts of things to so-called beautify and keep up your kingdom, right? And then you make no account of our labors, right? We're basically the salt of the earth. Every genre of music came from the Israelites. Without the Israelites, there would be no flavor in the earth, right? I mean, you even hear country music basically having some type of hip hop tone to it now, right? What you mean? Which we technically we created country, right? Country came from us, right? Country, rock, blues, hip hop, jazz, reggae, R&B, every genre of music. We are definitely the salt of the earth, but they're not. They're gonna not make any account of the face of such have afflicted him and made no account, right? They afflicted us through different, through cargo slavery, through all these different transatlantic slave trade, through the sub-Sahara slave trade. They made no account of our labors at all. Any of these different things that we have been through, or even in the music business. Okay, let's just think of all, like I said, the genres of music that was created from Jake, right? Created from Jake being Jacob, which is synonymous with Israel, which really would be Yasha'Allah, right? Right, and interchangeable with Yaquab or with Jacob and Israel are interchangeable, right? Though we all come out of the waters of Judah, there's still 12 tribes, but those 12 tribes have that salt, man, that had the flavor that introduced musics and different genres and different things and dances and flavors of food and this and that, right? All that comes from us, man. Right? We're the salt of the earth. So yeah, that's just basically what I wanted to bring out. Yeah, so that's kind of why he's not understanding, which it is what it is. He was set up to be a gatekeeper and this and that, and they paid him well, and he lived. And maybe they didn't give him the credit that he deserved, right? But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that's how it's meant to be, man. You're the Israelites. They're gonna overlook you. They're gonna overlook the things that we have done. All the inventions, matter of fact, all the inventions that we created, that they make no account of our labors, man. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. There would be no Edomites able to really survive in Phoenix, Arizona without the AC, which was created by a black man. The car was created by a so-called black man, and another so-called black man came with the headlights and the blinkers and the mirrors, right? The things that you do on a day-to-day basis, the refrigerator, all sorts of things, man. Jake created these things on a day-to-day basis. Esau go out and play golf. The tee, the little thing that they put the little tee that they put the golf. A black man created that, so these devils wouldn't even be able to play golf if it wasn't for a so-called black man. So they made no account of our labors all together, all the way around, right? So-called black woman created the GPS, right? You know what I'm saying? hey, bro, they make no account of our labors all the way around. So with all that, I'm going to give all praises and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preacher in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners, whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel, to your father, and have come back to the fold, Shalom. To your sisters, you Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and the Bible ball and Kwam Yasharallah.